Yes. All right, it looks like we are on air. Welcome to Film Geek Primer Live, number 17 by my count. It's going to be a thin crew this evening.
We're like a winger song. We're only 17.
See, now,
Skip winger when you need
if Shu were here, he could play that on the kazoo. I'm not willing to make that artistic choice, and I representation I would need to pull it off. With me tonight is El Tremendo, representing.
Hello. How you doing, Dub?
I'm doing well. Yeah, so we're gonna just talk about a few things that we hashed out ahead of time, but we'll try and keep it short. First thing I wanted to do was give T a chance to talk about pure cinema. I don't want to necessarily put him on the spot, but I missed him in the conversation we had a couple weeks back, or last week, and I'd really like to hear, even if it's just reiteration of how brilliant my thoughts were. I'd love to hear what his thoughts were.
Dude, you were so awesome. Those thoughts. I bathe in those thoughts.
Best episode ever.
Clean and cinema brilliance.
Yeah.
Well, just a quick reminder what pure cinema is. Films that focus, or film work that focus on the basic elements of film that are unique to the medium. Obviously, editing, sound, montage, all those film words. My example was something called Flickr. I don't know if you heard about it. There's a write-up on it somewhere I saw, and Flickr is a film where nothing happens. Some guy pieced together footage. Some of it, there's some imagery, there's some text. It was made in the 60s. There's a long introduction with a lot of text, and then it just cuts to long periods of a blank screen, intercut with flashes and random images. I've never seen it. I've seen the first 5 or 10 minutes of it. I don't know how long it is. Maybe you're, somebody out there let us know how long it is. But
well, my question is, how long could you sit through something like that?
I made it 5 minutes. I think I did 5-7 minutes, and I said, okay, I get the gist. It's
pretty good.
I think it's the intent is to purify or just put the cinema going experience of sitting in a dark room, looking at a big screen, and watching images flash by. And the result is allegedly this hallucinatory effect that happens when you're watching film. This film in particular, but I think we kind of lose ourselves when we watch a film too. If we get really into the story, we kind of forget we're watching films, especially with a really good film or a very loud film. So I think Flickr is I think would be a pretty good basic example of pure cinema. It's the medium applied to its most elementary elements, and I think a lot of people just shake their head and sigh. I think more serious film goers or film scholars appreciate it on a higher level. But that would have been my example of pure cinema.
Yeah, it sounds almost like you're talking about lowercase pure cinema in like you were saying, in the most very basic sense. I'd be curious to see how long I could endure something like that. That seems like a very difficult film-going slog.
Yeah, I think it's an endurance test. It's one of those Marathon Man kind of.
Although to be fair, I do like hallucinations. So maybe the movie will meet me halfway.
No brownie, perhaps. And there's another one. I think Santo would know the title of it, and I think it's an 80-minute Zoom. And it starts in a window, and it's New York or something, and then it just slowly zooms out for 80 minutes. And I forget what it's called. I forget who made it. Santo would have probably rattled it off by now. But that's another example of, probably lowercase pure cinema.
I'm going to tell a little anecdote here just because we've got the time. I've worked with Santo before. I won't say where, but we had editing capabilities at our fingertips, and he cut together a bunch of unused footage once. A piece of which was Brian Grazer's laugh, so that was nice. But that particular project, if I'm not mistaken, ended with a 90-second fade out, which was it's a minute and a half of the image just fading out. It was an endurance test unto itself. I wonder whatever happened to that.
That sounds a lot. I don't know if you ever heard of this. There's a traveling cinema show, or kind of a traveling. They go from indie theater to indie theater. It's called Everything Is Terrible.
No.
Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a combination of found footage.
Sounds like a warning.
What's that?
It sounds like a warning.
Exactly, and it's truth in advertising.
Right.
So you get it is what it is, and I guess they scour like Goodwills and secondhand stores and look for videotapes from the 80s and 70s, and a lot of these shot on public access type looking shows, and they cut them together. And they one of the things they do is they'll take an old movie from the 80s or something, and they'll cut it down to its basic elements. So it's Angel's Revenge in 7 minutes. So they'll cut it down to its very basic, the only scenes you need to see. Okay, so that's one of the elements to have. But I think my favorite element is just getting a tape.
That sounds great. Is that stuff available anywhere? Do you know if they've got like a YouTube channel or anything? That sounds.
I have a YouTube channel. Everything Is Terrible, and I think that part of the fun is seeing it with a bunch of people who've never seen shit like this before. And it's pretty hilarious. And I think the thing that they pull off really well is pulling out the creepiness of Christian videos or religious themed films that are videos that are aimed at kids are especially creepy. And it's amazing the kind of stuff they find. It's how-to videos, how to build a ladder or something like that. They just get their source from a lot of places.
I'm just looking at some of these thumbnails just to get a sense of the vibe. You were talking about cable access show. It reminds me of the kind of interstitials you might see on Cartoon Swim or on Adult Swim. The sort of weird Tim and Eric vibe. That's
right, and that's where they borrow it from. I mean, these guys have been around for a long time.
It's got that. They're cutting it on the video toaster, right?
Yeah.
Old school.
Yeah. And
so, all right. Well, I wanted to give you a chance to chime in on that.
I think you guys covered that pretty well.
Your cinema, yeah, we definitely spent some time on it. I also wanted to get an update on your poster collecting while we've got you here. If there's anything new to talk about there.
A good buddy of ours, Mike, he's getting ready, kind of weeding his collections, cleaning out his garage, and he's not giving me any posters. He's got some pretty badass posters. I kind of want him to come on the show one of these days because he has some really cool stories. He's giving me 4 insert frames, and inserts they're kind of the half size. They're half the size of a regular poster. Okay.
All right.
What they were, I guess they're also called day bills, and I guess they occupied the very rectangular windows of old school movie theaters, or in some cases the lobbies, and they broke down the film the basic elements. The picture in the top, the marquee at the top, the picture in the middle, and then the credits at the bottom.
So now, when you say old school movie theaters, how old are you talking about?
I'm talking
like picture I've ever seen like a half size movie frame. I don't know if I've seen one.
The movie palaces of old, where they had glass cabinets, where
you could have just said of old. I would have known. Got it.
Let's see if I can find one. I own one.
Have you ever seen where a day bill would go in a movie palace? Like at the Grauman's, do they have it, or like the Egyptian?
Okay, so so when I Google 2001 day bill, I get a bunch of Bill Clinton stories.
He was a day bill, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what that means. It's not a slang with any corresponding reality.
So let's see.
All right, so I'm trying to think of the nice, like the was it the Fox Theater in Oakland? That was a nice palace. That might have had something inset to the filigree.
Is that showing up, Dub?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's a day bill or a half sheet.
Okay,
So he's giving me some frames,
that's nice.
4 frames. So that means I'm in the market for some day bills, and so that's where my poster collection is right now. I can show you the
Okay, so this is throwing you on the spot. You've got 4 frames now. What would be your 4 dream day bills?
You know,
the whole world is open to you. Any 4 you want.
You know, anything Kubrick, anything from the '60s, where that was the heyday of probably the day bills.
Just you and me, let's get that day bill down.
Anything '80s, pretty much.
Like Teen Wolf? You had a Teen Wolf day bill that would live up there when you say '80s.
Maybe a little earlier. You know? But here's my latest one.
Oh, I see you're getting all ready there.
Okay, let's see here. You see that?
So you can't give 4 titles? Ooh, nice.
That's the only reason I got this one is purely for this guy, Joe Don Baker. At some point, I'd like to collect every single Joe Don Baker poster frame, not necessarily film, but the poster.
Is that physically possible?
You'd be surprised, dude. I'm like.
Let's hit it up here. I'm gonna leave that image up there for a while. Oh no, thank you. All right, but I gotta jump into IMDb and I gotta find out how many movies Joe Don Baker has been.
I have two right now. I have Mitchell.
His credit is GoldenEye. That makes me sad. All right, he's been an actor in 81 films. 81 films. You're gonna have to. You know what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to wallpaper your house in Joe Don Baker movie posters. It's gonna be nothing but Joe Don Baker.
At this point, my house is gonna be made of posters.
Yes. So I wouldn't throw stones if I were you.
Yeah.
Are you going to count his TV series appearances?
Eyeshide might be a tough sell. It might be a tough find for Eyeshide, but
he did play in an episode of Felony Squad, so that's something you can look out for.
Oh, I can look for that, yeah. There's he did 2 Bond movies. I think he was I don't know if he played Felix Leiter in one of the Dalton ones, maybe Living Daylights, but he was the bad guy in the previous one, Living Daylights. So, License to Kill. He was the bad guy. He was Leiter in License to Kill, and he was a bad guy in Living Daylights.
Well, then that's the collection you need. So that's 2 for your day bills. That's 2 day bills. Right there, the Joe Don Baker collection.
Living Daylights is a hard find to find an original.
Yeah, they probably didn't make a lot.
Yeah. It's a solid Bond movie. I think it's probably one of the best.
I have such a hard time with those '80s Bond movies. They're so much harder to watch. I'll even sit through Moonraker.
To this day, I still haven't seen License to Kill, so really got to get on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Moonraker was pretty much. But the Moonraker poster is pretty sweet.
yes, it is.
As most of the '70s films that were illustrated by guys like Drew Struzan and the poster illuminated the film, and they stand alone on their own merits. The movie didn't have to be so good. I have no doubt that Speed Trap is a wonderful film, but
I am filled with doubt on that topic. That's not something I would say I have no doubt about.
The poster at least makes me excited to watch it until I'm ultimately disappointed.
Is Speed Trap one of those movies that like 8 different people have already uploaded onto YouTube and I can just watch right now?
I haven't even looked for it. I was just so excited to get it. I didn't even look for the damn movie. It's probably widely available.
Yeah, full movie right here.
Nice.
That's good.
So that's my latest one. I am waiting for a poster called Goodbye USA. And I wish I could share with you the when I get it, I'll show you. I'll show you guys the illustration. It's pretty damn cool. It's the
All right.
movie Red Dawn should have been.
All right. Hey, I've been thinking about John Milius lately, and it's gonna upset the others not to shout me down on this topic.
You're
But
still off camera, by the way.
what?
You're still off camera.
I am off camera. So I was thinking about John Milius, and I was thinking about that documentary, and there was something about it that wasn't sitting well with me, and I haven't been able to fully articulate it. So I think I'll take this opportunity to half-ass articulate it. When you look at his contemporaries, you see such experimentation, I might say. You see them all trying things outside their comfort zone to one degree or another. And you're seeing their art evolve as they go from brash young men to more mature older men. And their art changes because of it. He wasn't doing that. He wasn't really changing. And there's the man. And when you think about the project he's working on now, it's the Genghis Khan. It's the same hyper masculine military Milius milieu, if you will, that he's been working in since the day he walked away from the army. So while I don't want to, I hope I'm not coming across like I'm diminishing him.
Sure.
But I feel like, he wrote the movie I always say is my favorite movie, Apocalypse Now. I feel like it's really interesting to me that he's had all of this late life success, and it might be one of those chicken and egg things where he hasn't been able to express himself artistically with regularity, so he's artistically stopped up. which is a metaphor I just stumbled into and love more than anything now. This is why I'm glad I talked it out.
He's very well prepared. He takes a lot of preparation.
He's creatively constipated. and that's not to say that when it comes, his shit won't not stink. It could be great. It could be fantastic.
We should apply this metaphor for everything. Oh wait, we do.
Well, I wish it worked for everything. But yeah, I think it's really interesting how there is no. I guess he did that. He did the Surfer movie, and that's not guys with swords stabbing one another. Mm-hmm. But other than that, that's been a real sort of stomping ground for his.
I wonder how much he's been pigeonholed in that role, though. Like he's the guy you do the macho tough guy epic. Maybe that's his niche.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would let himself be pigeonholed if he didn't want to be. Right? True. So if he wanted, I don't know what John Milius's Schindler's List would look like. And you know what I mean? Like I don't know what his even this many years later, Coppola's doing Youth Without Youth, right? He's doing he's being artistic still.
Sure. Trying to.
What?
Constantly trying.
Oh, absolutely, and that's all. I love it when artists successfully make awesome art, but all you can do is ask them to try. Like I always talk about Neil Young. I'm a big Neil Young fan, but man, half of those albums are garbage.
Well, I think a lot of people who get into filmmaking don't necessarily have to have an artistic inclination. Maybe they just want to make the kind of film they want to make, which pretty much harkens to the old school directors who were more workmen. They plied their trade,
right?
And they did films, in that kind of workhouse kind of mentality. And they decide, hey, I'm really good at this. I'll just keep doing it, and I don't really have anything to say. And he may come from that old school kind of background. This is what I'm good at, and this is what I'm going to do, and I don't really have anything to say.
Yeah, I guess you got to make 1,000 westerns before you're going to come up with The Searchers.
True. And John Ford was definitely a guy who didn't want anybody to read into what he was doing.
No.
He just watched some of those
Bogdanovich clips.
Bogdanovich, he's very cagey.
Indeed.
Yep.
So what else? What else were we talking about right beforehand?
What we're gonna watch? What's the how the summer's gonna shape up and what we watched recently?
Yeah, I haven't. I think actually I don't know if I mentioned it in the pure cinema conversation. I watched Battleship Potemkin recently, which I hadn't seen since film school. Um, did you watch it in film school?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty it
One of
was
those
it was a pretty
fundamental 101, film 101 kind of things we had to watch.
yeah, and I watched it. I watched it with my 7 and my 4-year-old were there. Um, it was an intense movie. I think if I had seen it, I might not have exposed it to children, but I'm glad they got the exposure. It was kind of
I'm
nice.
a, I'm a major kid sat through that. I really am.
It's
That
compelling. I'm telling you, if you throw it on, it was on Netflix. Like it bubbled up in a recommendation on Netflix,
uh,
and I threw it on, and it's a compelling movie from the very beginning, and it's compelling in the way that lowercase pure cinema, so as to not start a conversation, is. They're beautifully constructed shots. When they move with a purpose, and they tell you a story when you view them all sequentially. So my kids knew that meat had worms on it. I'm not going to eat that meat. They're going to make them eat the meat. They're going to be mad. They're going to get mad. Yeah, I mean, I even think that's a frame from the movie. Like it's that it's
yeah.
that well composed. It's that beautifully. Each shot is that beautifully crafted, and some of it was very clearly done in a set. But the most impressive stuff was when he was out on the water, and he was getting these amazing shots. And then it made me laugh as a sort of cynic who was distancing myself from the movie. But you would have these shots where I'm saying to myself, "Oh my God, he's really on the bow of a battleship, and he's really swinging out on the side on some sort of rig." And then you would cut to the reverse shot, and it's like little plastic boat in a pool somewhere. Like it has nowhere near the grandeur of what he was getting in some of these other shots, looking up at the yards and seeing how high the ship is, and having 100 men cram into the front part of that ship. There's just these great images, and then you cut to the reverse, and it's little toy boat in its little model tub. It was hilarious.
Right. Right.
But that was the peak of my film geekery this week, I think. Unfortunately.
It was the film we saw for editing, where editing took the stage as the primary, storytelling. How it broke down the shots, and the one element, and I don't remember if it was this film or if it was just Russian film in general, something called the Kuleshov effect. Do you remember that from film school?
Not that I could speak to right now.
It's something that it's the effect of associating one shot to the other and the psychological effect it has on the viewer. So if you have a shot of a guy looking at something off camera, and then you cut to a woman playing with her child, or a puppy playing in the grass or whatever,
Right.
and you cut back to him and he smiles, the effect is that the thing that he's watching is having him react that way. And
Right.
that's the psychological effect that we understand what's going on, is that cut, because we understand what he's looking at. And in another context, it could be the same guy, same shot, looking off camera, and there's a woman in bikini sunbathing, and then you come
Right.
back and he
Right.
smiles the exact same way, but we have a different psychological reaction.
I see what you're saying.
Oh man, he's a pervert or whatever. So that I remember from that section of film school, and why we were watching the Battleship Potemkin, and the scene with the famous scene with the baby carriage,
Yeah.
breaking down time or extending time through editing and to create a tension. That was a very elementary part of learning about film, but in a broader context, Battleship Potemkin is a very political film, piece of propaganda, and a piece of the artwork that's, I think, is despite the times that we may laugh at a toy boat, it's still pretty significant.
Oh, I completely agree, and I think that's why. Well, first of all, I think that's why it held my children's attention, and second of all, I think that's why I feel so bad making them see it. Those elements you were talking about, that connective inter-image psychological construct that we make when we see those scenes edited together are clear as day in this movie. I mean, I feel like what's happening in the movie is so clear, and then you get the writing in between, which is nice, because I think the Russian language is fairly poetic even when translated, and those cards are almost unnecessary. Sometimes they point out the passage of time, but what's so modern about that movie is, while it's a study in editing, in a lot of ways it's a study in not noticing the editing as well.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not super showy. It's not Michael Bay editing. It's just showing you how a series of images can, ferry you along through the psychological journey of the characters you're seeing.
Sure. It's using editing as an artistic tool, not just a tool. It's a device to tell a story.
Right.
As a form of expression, and I think it's it's basic educational material for anybody who wants to do that for a living.
Yeah, I wonder if there's there's an annotated version you can find that's like a pop-up video for Battleship Potemkin.
In this day and age, there's got to be,
That's funny. If not,
who knows?
I was gonna say, if not, I know the next Film Geek Primer production. We're gonna have to put the Cirque du Soleil version of Lava Rats on hold.
You know what? Yeah, exactly. You mentioned F.W. Murnau last week.
Yeah.
Sunrise, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a film? Oh man, I hope I'm getting this right. A film he did called The Last Laugh. You ever heard of that one?
No. That was I had a list of his movies that I had gotten from a buddy of mine way back when, because I'm like, who is this guy? He's so awesome. I need to know what the movies are, and that was on the list, but I never got my hands on it. I actually haven't tried finding it in the digital age. I only tried it back in the analog era.
Get your hands on it, because there's so much modern filmmaking in that piece. You have dolly shots, and you have crane shots, and you have very expressive editing, and the performance of the main guy, Oscar Werner, I think his name is, a very famous German actor. That's a terrific film, and I think it's also a silent, I believe, and if you dig Murnau as a technician, that one is probably one of the most innovative he's ever done.
Yeah, all right, I will definitely be on the hunt for that one. Yeah, 1924.
So what did I watch? I watched dang it, what did I watch? Well, on a lighter note, we go from one piece of cinema greatness, such as Flash, to another, and I saw Critters for the first time.
Oh, Critters is great!
I'd never seen Critters.
Oh, Critters is an absolute classic. I love that movie.
Trying to catch up on all the Gremlins ripoffs that I didn't watch back in the day.
Have you seen Ghoulies? I've seen Ghoulies. I've seen Spookies. I've seen Hobgoblin. I'm trying to look for Hobgoblins 2. Full Moon came out with the Demonic Toys and Puppet Master. Critters 2 is also worth checking out. In some ways, Critters 2 is better than Critters.
Yeah, and Mick Garris did that. A guy he's well known for making a lot of Stephen King stuff. The best and the worst of Stephen King.
What's the best and what's the worst?
The best, the Mick Garris one?
Yeah.
I think he did Sleepwalkers, which I thought was pretty terrible.
Did you ever see Graveyard Shift?
Yes. And
Graveyard Shift was the worst as far as I'm concerned.
Oh my god. No, The Mangler. The Mangler is actually worse than that.
I never saw The Mangler. I read after I saw Graveyard Shift, I was done with Stephen King short stories, which is why I did not go see The Shawshank Redemption in the theater. Because I was like, fool me 6 times, shame on me. So when I heard The Mangler was coming out, I just lumped it in that they pulled another one out of Skeleton Crew or Skeleton
right.
collection that is, and extended it into just horrible territory.
What's have you heard of the Dollar Babies program?
No.
It's a program. I don't know if it's King or if it's in general among some famous authors. What they do is they grant the rights to a short story to a budding filmmaker, their rights to do it for $1. So they buy the rights to make a film, and then they get it for $1, and then they go off and do the film, and it's something that King does. I don't know if other novelists do it. Um,
How many stories does he crank out that he can then just start offering them up for $1? I mean, I guess other than
he's got Night Shift. He's got
right, there's 3 collections I can think of.
Crew, 4 Past Midnight.
But what was the most recent? Like not Hobnobs and something, but Graveyards and I can't think of it. I'm gonna have to hunt it down now.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got a lot of unpublished stuff too. But anyway, Frank Darabont, I think his first film was a Dollar Baby film. It was The Woman in the Room or something like that. And it's actually one of the better ones.
Oh, that's interesting. I know that short story. That's a very emotional short story.
Yeah, yeah, and it's done really well. A friend of mine, a filmmaker named Mondo Franco, he's a Dollar Baby, and he did The Boogeyman, and that was some friends of mine who did the makeup and assistant directing on that. Look it up on, I think it's on YouTube. Mondo Franco.
Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Sorry.
Look for the Boogeyman, Mondo Franco.
We'll put a link to it in our show notes.
Pretty good. Yeah.
You got to remind me to put links in our show notes.
I will. I think it's online. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to plug it. But why are we going with Stephen King? Oh, Critters. Yeah, it was a hell of a lot of fun. And I think I
that's it. And that's all we have to say about Critters.
That's it, yeah. But you know who's in it? You know who plays the kid in Critters? And I don't know if you're into American Dad.
So American Dad is part of that I will throw on the TV and not pay attention evening.
Okay.
So it's in the background while I brush my teeth or something.
The kid who plays the kid in American Dad is in Critters. And this guy has worked consistently from when he was a kid to now.
How old is he? If he was in both projects, I mean, is he voicing the... I mean, I guess he's got to be...
He's got to be...
50?
Maybe... No? What year was Critters? Maybe 83, 84?
You can hunt this guy down. What's his name?
Scott
or
Gimble.
not his name?
Or Scott... Oh, not Gimble. Scott
Grimes?
Scott Grimes. There you go.
Yes. No, you're right. He has been working consistently for forever. He's like... Who is the other cartoon Seth Green. That's it. He's like Seth Green. He's one of these child actors that pops up.
And has just worked his whole life. You know, never heard a bad thing about Scott Grimes.
Yeah.
He didn't Dana Plato his way up to the bottom.
Yeah, anyway, he reprises his role in Critters too, just so you know.
Absolutely. And Critters, a lot of fun, 80s flick, a lot of cheese. And I think I resisted it as a kid because I thought it was too scary. I thought it was like a scary Gremlins because I never thought Gremlins was scary. It had its scary moments, definitely, but just the sight of those little creatures scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, no, they were a disturbing build.
Yeah, so I kind of resisted it because if I think about rats and mice and stuff, they just remind me of like, dirty rats. And the non-James Cagney, dirty rats. But yeah, Critters is a lot of fun. Check it out.
So are you, just while we're talking about little furry disturbing creatures, are you one of these people who likes Gremlins 2?
I saw it once. I've only seen it once, and it's one of those films. I remember my parents and grandparents taking us to the mall because we had to drive 2 hours to go to the nearest mall, and they would send us to the movies, and while they went Christmas shopping, essentially, they did the Christmas shopping and they sent us to the movies.
All right.
So it was one of those films that was a Santa Claus exists, now go to the movies kind of thing. And I had a good streak with those because the first one was Time Bandits. Saw that one
Ooh.
during one of those mall trips. The next
Time
year was
Bandits
Terminator.
well, wait a minute, wait a minute. Time Bandits didn't disturb. How much older than me are you?
I
Is that
am probably a good 5 years older than you.
okay? Yeah, that would make sense because Time Bandits was very disturbing for me as a child and as a theater going experience. But that was like why I liked it. Like
Yeah.
it was like it was like one of those nightmares that you don't wake up in a cold sweat from. It
Yes.
just maybe sort of creeps you out and gets under your skin, and you never
Yes.
forget it. Like I will die remembering that image of the wall being pushed away.
Yeah.
That was
And
so
the
nightmarish.
face following them, the supreme being
Yes.
following them. That scared the shit. I won't lie. That was childhood nightmares.
But so back to Goonies 2. So Goonies 2 fell into that camp for you?
Yeah, it was one of those like I had a good track record. I had that. It started with Time Bandits, and the next year was a Terminator, and the next year it was the third year was Gremlins 2,
Okay.
and I just remember despising it. You know,
Yeah, me
the
too.
theater, just hating it. Like it was just there was way too many Gremlins, too many jokes.
I love that your number one complaint about Gremlins 2. Too many Gremlins.
Too many
Too
Gremlins.
many Gremlins.
Son of Zombies. Too many
Well,
Gremlins.
what I remember disliking about it is it's one of those sequels that feels like it was made by people who hate the first one. Like Airplane 2 in a lot of ways feels like the people who made it really didn't like
Oh yeah,
Airplane guys but Gremlins 2 because it doesn't Gremlins took a lot of that stuff legit. It took itself seriously and that's part of what made it so much fun.
yeah.
Gremlins 2 takes a break to cut to Hulk Hogan. It has these weird, like, meta moments that are just so... I remember watching it, and when they cut to Hulk Hogan sitting in a theater watching Gremlins 2, it was like, you've just given up, and you're not even caring to make a real movie here.
Right.
So yeah, despise would be the appropriate word.
That is fascinating. Over time, people have said, "Oh, you really got to see it. You got to see it again. You said it again," and I really mean to, but I never do. It's like,
Well, and that's why I was asking, is because I feel like there are people who are fans. There are people who legitimately think Gremlins 2 is a movie you can watch when it's on television. When I view it as a reason to write letters to the FCC. And be like, where's my nipples and pubic hair? I'm forced to watch Gremlins 2. I have children to think about. They could live their whole lives never knowing that
where are my reparations?
right? But they'll see a nipple every day of their lives, and yet you can't see that on television. But Gremlins 2, any Sunday, it might be on. I've got to be constantly vigilant as a parent.
Right.
Yeah, there it is.
There's Gremlins too.
And why did you get the Spanish poster?
It's the biggest. It's the biggest one I could see.
Do you have Spanish browsing on?
Let's see. There we go.
Yeah, like they get drunk in that one.
And it's got that weird sequence with Christopher Lee as the the scientist who wants to experiment on them.
Right. It's just so bad.
Yeah.
Whereas Critters 2 does not have that kind of drop off. You're good. You're good for Critters 2.
Gotcha.
He did do the second one too, didn't he?
Excuse me? What?
Did Dante do the second one too?
He did. He did do the second one, right? I just looked that up. And Chris Columbus wrote it.
Yeah, so the reason I brought it up is because I wanted to know if I should revisit it. If I'm wrong to remember it. It's the responsibility of switching the camera. If I'm wrong to remember it as despicable.
Why
but
not?
I'm glad to hear that other people find it despicable.
I think that the thing I hated, one of the things I hate about it, and I love Tony Randall.
Tony Randall.
Doesn't Tony Randall do the voice of one of the Gremlins, the smart one, the brain Gremlin?
Yes, I think you're right. You're right. I think he does.
And I hate it.
If I'm not mistaken, he gets to give it one of these.
I can't see you.
Hello, Gizmo. He does the turnaround. Oh, right, you can't see me.
I can't see you.
Anyway, he does the slow turnaround in the chair to reveal himself in a boardroom. That guy.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Okay, so I may or may not revisit it
I
depending
think we
on
should.
whether or
Yeah.
not it comes on a random Sunday.
I think we should. The five of us should pick a film to revisit. Um,
I
we
think that's a
did
very good idea.
we did a thing on a prior podcast that never made it to air, where we would pick a film, and I kind of wanted to do this as a separate podcast, but pending any litigation by Santo or the FGB conglomerate, um, pick pick a film we watched at a certain period in our lives that we only watched once, okay, and tape a segment where we kind of like, okay, I saw Snake Eyes at the drive-in in Tucson, Arizona, and I hated it. It was terrible. That was my reaction in 19 whatever it was. And okay, we're gonna go now. We're gonna go watch it. Cut. Go watch the film. Come back. Have a fresh perspective and see if our opinion has changed since then.
I think that's a good idea. I think it would be hard to find the right movie.
We had a list. I mean, we had
Yeah.
a huge list of stuff of things that we knew the three of us, three being Santo and Shu and I, that we know we have seen. The one film that stands out that I think wouldn't qualify because I think Santo and Shu and maybe you have seen over and over is Heat. I've only seen Heat once, the Michael Mann Heat.
I believe I've only seen Heat all the way through once myself.
Right.
Whereas I know that it is one of those movies that people have watched dozens of times.
Yeah.
But that might
That's,
that might not be a bad idea. I mean,
yeah.
if we have a few people who are very familiar with it and a few people who are not familiar with it, that'd be a good discussion too, I think.
Absolutely. I think Miami Vice would be another one by the same director.
The movie Miami Vice?
Yeah. That I know I've seen once, but I think Shu and Santo have revisited that.
There's
elsewhere.
other Michael Mann I would like to revisit. I don't remember feeling one way or the other about Miami Vice. It certainly wasn't terrible, but Collateral I would like to see again.
Mm.
That's one that I only saw once and was so surprised at the end of it that I felt like I really need to go back and take in sort of the act one of this movie that I may have been a little more dismissive of than I should be. So,
I think I just moved to Los Angeles at the time when I saw it, and I was too busy seeing where they were shooting stuff. They shot everything around where I used to work and where I lived.
I still say one of the great pleasures of living in Los Angeles is that from time to time, if you're lucky, you will spy over the horizon Nakatomi Plaza. I mean, I can't even begin to. That's like seeing the Golden Gate Bridge every day, as far as I'm concerned. That's like a landmark of our country and our nation.
That's down in what, Century City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you drive the 10 on the west side at all, you'll see it.
Gotcha.
And if you're not driving on the 405, you can kind of sit there and get a good view.
If I'm stopping to pick up some Twinkies before I quit.
Yeah, I was on my way home before you called.
That's a good topic for a future podcast.
Twinkies?
I know we're veering to what we should do in other podcasts.
Right. Well, we're winding down here.
Films about LA or films shot in LA.
Yeah, that's
That
a
would
big
be,
one. That's probably a whole podcast in and of itself. So this weekend, I am planning on catching How to Train Your Dragon 2
okay.
with the fam. I think it's going to be very good.
It's a safe bet. Yeah.
And I say that based not only on the first one, which was very good, but the marketing cash-in Netflix series that they've made on the How to Train Your Dragon's characters. Christmas or Life Day special, I don't know what they call it, but they've done a series, and it's like 4 episodes that are holiday themed that all have the How to Train Your Dragon characters in them.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I've seen a few of these cash-ins, and they're pretty rough in terms of just quality of writing and character. They're just not good. These How to Train Your Dragon ones are pretty good, and they try and succeed at, and this is all relative, you have to watch a lot of kids stuff to understand how relative this is. But they try and succeed at telling a fairly compelling story and giving real human emotion to these characters that you're watching. Not the dragons. The dragons are adorable or scary or whatever they need to be, but the human beings actually have human emotions, which is nice. So to have done even that level of quality control on the throwaway product makes me very hopeful for the real thing. And then I was saying I'm thinking of seeing Days of Future Past, but I haven't heard of anyone that loved it. It's gotten sort of a universal meh. And
it's definitely not.
Edge of Tomorrow, I think I'd go with Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I that's getting some good reviews. I do want to see it. I meant to see it this past weekend, but didn't get around to it. How much of an X-Men fan are you? You know.
Well, I wouldn't call myself a big X-Men fan. What I would say is I'm a big fan of that 90s cartoon, which was my first and sort of broadest exposure to the X-Men, I would say conceptually. You know, what they're all about,
sure.
how they interact with one another, you know, what some of the basic powers are, and the other thing I would say is the way they tell stories in the X-Men universe.
Honestly, I think you're gonna have very little to complain about. I think it's a pretty solid X-Men flick. If you saw First Class or the most recent Wolverine movie, it's up there in that level of storytelling. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of. Fortunately, it takes place. It's a time travel flick.
That's Strike 2.
Well, most of the action takes place in the 70s, so there's not a lot of jumping back and forth. So there's the time mumbo jumbo is kept to a minimum, even though it's crucial to the plot. If you enjoy these characters,
I know the basic plot from the cartoon. They did like a 4-part epic Days of Future Past series, and it starts out for like almost the first full episode. You're with what's the guy's name? It's not even Wolverine. It's he's got like
it wasn't Wolverine. They didn't. I don't think they sent Wolverine back. I think that was a change.
Yeah. It was a different random character. He was not an X-Men at first.
I think it was Kitty Pryde.
This is a big burly black dude.
Oh, Bishop.
Bishop. Yes, that was it. I want to say it had a fairly common name like Walter or Dan or something like that. Bishop is pretty common relative to Wolverine.
Time traveling mutant.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm debating between that. I'm also thinking of Million Ways to Die in the West. Have you seen that yet?
No, but I really want to see. I'm kind of curious why it was panned. I think the trailer's hysterical, but the trailer might have every single laugh in the flick. Who knows? The
trailer is just absolutely a number one. And what's funny is as I see the review, and the review is bad, let's say, right? So it gives it a D. And then I go into the review and I read why it got a D, and I'm chuckling.
Right.
Right. So I'm thinking, all right, so maybe this is a bad movie that I'm really going to like.
It's a Seth MacFarlane film.
Yeah, and it's like, you see something in the trailer and you're like, all right, I will give you my money for that. When I saw Pacific Rim, I gave them my money when one giant robot went to punch, and then jets shot out of his elbow. His punch go that much faster. So that was awesome. In A Million Ways to Die in the West, when you hear a fart sound, and then the guy off screen says, "That came out of my penis." Sold. That was a laugh that I did not see coming on that particular trailer.
More buck for your fart. More fart for your fart buck.
Right. And so the reviews I'm reading are like, you got to really like scatological humor and humor about body functions in order to enjoy this movie. And I'm thinking, I'm interested. I'm listening.
It's the same level of criticism that I'm not defending Adam Sandler movies, but it's the level of criticism that says this movie was bad because Adam Sandler was in it. So I think that the criticism that this movie is getting is it's bad because Seth MacFarlane's in it.
Right.
That in itself is not really criticism. I think people have they're predisposed to Adam Sandler. They've been exposed to his level of badness, and then they're going for that badness, or whatever. So I think it was a knock on Seth MacFarlane, if anything. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
wonder if I wonder if at this point critics even need to say anything about an Adam Sandler movie. Like if you're a diehard Adam Sandler fan, life is good for you, right? You're just gonna keep getting an Adam Sandler movie
yeah, it's
every
like that.
year, every 18 months. Doesn't matter how good it is,
Here's
it's
your
coming.
here's your Big Mac. It's got this, and that. If that's what floats your boat, go get one.
Yeah, those movies are horrible. All right, I feel like we're drifting. We made it to an hour. I want to thank everyone who's stuck with us. Let's try and anyway. No one has stuck with us. It's Santo. It's Santo watching it and just hating it.
Now he knows how I feel.
All right. So how can people get in touch with you?
I'm on Twitter at El Tremendo. I have a blog I haven't updated in 6 months at
I'll catch up on
eltremendo3000.com.
that.
I hope to update it soon.
All right. Any closing thoughts? Any final words?
You know what, Doug? What I want to pass by you real quick
Yeah.
is we're talking about Lost before we started taping,
Yes.
and I found some graphics that I had worked on. I was going to do an article about, well, not really an article. It was just going to be a little kind of joke piece about what if Lost was set in the 80s.
Okay.
Who would be cast? What would the storyline be and stuff? I'm going to work on that a little. I'll shoot it your way, and then maybe I'll post it and share it with everybody.
That sounds great. You know what you could do is you could if you if you pick the actors, we'll cut a little video together.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make this a video presentation if Lost were set in the 80s. Do you have you must have an El Tremendo YouTube channel. We'll throw it up on there. We'll link it. We'll cross promote. We'll
All right.
we'll make it work.
Synergy.
Yeah, I got to come up with a video. What video can I do next?
So yeah, everything's cool on my side. Thanks for everybody for tuning in.
All right, and as always, I'm Film Geek Dub, and just to let people know, I intentionally, since I was the leader this time, I intentionally kept the Film Geek Primer logo there, but I was able to change my name.
Gotcha.
All right, just having fun. Yeah, we'll be doing this again next week. Hopefully there'll be more people, and I think I'm going to try and talk Santo into posting the topic on the Google Plus page as early as like Friday. Because what I'm thinking we should do is go back through all these YouTube channels we mentioned on the show and friend them and like them and tell them, hey, we're friends, we're fans.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. I will be taking care of that this week and hope to see all of you soon. All right. Good night, everyone. Shu, would you play us out? I'm kidding.
That's all.
Oh, I was going to let you go. Oh, all right. Santo found a way to put a bumper on the front, so hopefully he'll play us out too. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.